Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with Nate Payo, the show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
Hello, welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. Of course, I'm your host, Nate Payo. Today, I'm joined with Jason the Argonaut. Jason is a podcaster. He runs a podcast called the Primal Fear Podcast. Talks about strength through struggle. He's also big on Twitter, and that's where we initially connected. So welcome to the show, Jason. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Nate. I'm doing good, man.
No problem. So I always like to talk about like how I connect with people and how they came about getting on the show. And you're pretty big on Twitter, and I don't know what I'm doing on Twitter, but I'm on there and I start following people. Sometimes I don't really realize where I follow people, and they tend to be fitness related people as well. And I think, just all of a sudden you're kind of showing up my feed on a regular basis, and you're talking about a podcast. And I reached out and said, hey, you want to come on my podcast and connect? And I didn't even, really know if you'd be interested or not. And you said, yeah. So, here we are. So it's kind of cool how getting out there, I think, and meeting people from all kinds of walks of life. I think a podcast has a way of allowing you to connect with people you might not have met under other circumstances. And you're exposed to different ideas and different points of views. And I think it's a really cool way to connect with people. How's podcasting been for you?
It's pretty good. I'm on a short hiatus right now while I get things worked out. I got laid off of both of my jobs because of COVID. So I'm taking a break right now. I'm going to be coming back in June. I'll be doing a lot more shorts, little 3-minute episodes. Then I got some people. I got June booked as far as interviews. So I'll be doing at least 4 interviews per month. Yeah.
So the name of your show is The Primal Fear. What led you to that name, and what's like your theory behind what is primal fear to you?
Well, it's the primal fire. The primal fear is
fire. Okay, yeah, I'm reading it wrong.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the primal fire is actually primal fear is actually Ed Norton's podcast. So with Richard Gere. So as I told you, I suffered from depression since I was a child, like 3 years old. And I noticed later on, after all the crap that happened in my life, breakups and all the bad stuff that happened to people, that if I have a focus and I focus on my mission, which is my work, my art, all that kind of stuff, I feel that the depression pretty much just goes away. So I feel that the primal fire is a fire that burns inside everyone, men and women, that if you fuel it, it's going to lead you to where you're supposed to go. And I use the metaphor of a fire because it's what it is, and it can't be put out. It can be doused a little bit, but it can't be completely put out. And as long as you're fueling that fire, you're going to get somewhere.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's like this, it's just desire, like at least for me, like to do something else. And that kind of compelled me that led to a podcast was this like, hey, I have this itch to do something a little bit bigger. And I try to put it out, but it always come back. So I was kind of like, and a lot of times I would struggle with knowing my mission, because I would be doing something that really wasn't maybe aligned with my goals. It was like, I thought like, I feel like I need to do something. So I do something that I think makes sense, but it's not aligned with my goals. And so then I abandon that, but then that itch comes back, and you're right. It's like a fire that you can't put out. But when you're working on something that you really feel passionate about, that is your purpose, like how often does that happen where you're just like, man, I was working really hard on something. I met some cool people that were all part of it, and it didn't even feel like work. It felt like you're just kind of like goofing off and having a good time. But you look back on it and you're like, man, that was like some of the most productive years of my life, or that was like the most fun times of my life. And we did a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't have thought possible if I hadn't kind of like pursued it. And you look back on those like, hey, if you have like some struggles with depression, you're like, I didn't really feel it then. That wasn't a dark period of my life, or it helped me through dark periods of time. So I think fire is a great way to describe it. Very cool. Very cool. So who are the kind of guests you like to bring on, and what do you like to talk about with them?
Entrepreneurs. My very first guest was my friend Nathan. You can find him on Twitter at Steel Jans. He runs a blog called Barbarian Rhetoric. He's also the creator of Barbaric Soap, which is soap. It's basically soap for men. They got some women's stuff coming, but it's basically soap for men and minimal ingredients, and it's better for your skin than regular store bought stuff with the perfumes and stuff. But Barbarian Rhetoric is basically a group of men who think like modern day barbarians. So barbarianism is not exactly what people think it is. It's not out there going out there raping, pillaging, and plundering and things like that. Barbarians are actually very noble, honorable, and strong people. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that sets us back in society today is that if you look at an ant and the way an ant works, it's what it does. It works. Look at a squirrel. You'll never see a depressed squirrel. It's too busy working because it's working on its focus. Mm-hmm. And in 200 million years or more, these animals have not changed. They haven't evolved. Well, neither have we. So we're not still doing the same things we're supposed to be doing: the hunting, the fishing, the reaping, the sowing, and all that kind of stuff. And it set us back. Civilization actually sets us back. Technology is not advanced. It's actually setting us back. So the whole barbarian rhetoric thing is, getting that information out there to help people get that proper mindset of how to live properly in the civilized world without letting depression take them over, because society is what's depressing us.
Yeah, that's interesting. Have you read or listened to the book? I think is called Sapiens.
No, I've heard about it. It's on my reading list.
Yeah, that book. They talk a little bit about that and how society, like as people came from, I guess hunter-gatherers, and they started, developing communities and started, doing farming and domesticating animals and stuff like that. The better they got at it, the worse, like the more people worked and the harder they worked for less like happiness and stuff like that. And it's just kind of an interesting take that like, it's true. Like you think, you look back and, there's like predictions of like, hey, in the early, 20th century, like, hey, by the year 2000, we're going to be working 30 hours a week. We're going to have robots doing everything for us. And you look now, you're like, yeah, we have robots doing stuff for us, but we're still like, we're still working our tails off to do stuff and chasing stuff. And I think, we continually just, we're not maybe being in our primal stages and our primal desires. And then we get caught up in who has what and this and that. And it kind of triggers some of the depressions that people might have. Cool. So you're also fitness professional as well, or very involved with fitness. That's something I have an interesting take on. I was listening to one of your podcasts before the show to kind of get an idea of what you're up to. And you talk a lot about, where people are at and putting out courses, putting out content, and some of it's garbage and some of it's good stuff. There seems to be a lot of people, I guess, in the fitness space that either are really out there and they're, I guess, quote unquote, selling out, or the people that are like, hey, they're really good at what they do, but they don't, I guess they don't want to technically sell out, so that they don't put themselves out there in this idea of being, a fitness celebrity or fitness influencer. What's kind of your take on the state of fitness and where people are at with that?
I think one of the biggest problems right now is people trying to reinvent the wheel. It's not rocket surgery. It's not rocket surgery at all. I'm not trying to short anybody who's trying to make a living by selling courses. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. I feel that all the information is out there. I think you're better off to find a really good in-person trainer, because it's difficult to hold yourself accountable. As much as I know, I still have a hard time holding myself accountable and getting the work done without somebody to push me. And I'm not a people person, not really. Mm-hmm. So, and I still need a training partner or a trainer or somebody to train me. But I think the biggest issue is reinventing the wheel. The thing that you want to do, basically, and here's the secret. I'm putting the secret out there for everybody to know. There's 6 basic exercises. You got a squat, bench, and a deadlift. You got a row and a press and a pull up. And you get as strong as you can on those movements. If you're 130 pounds and you can't press the bar, don't worry about how big your deltoids are. Mm-hmm. When you get to the point where you can press overhead 185 pounds for 20 reps, then you can throw some lateral raises in there. But really, how many sets should I do? It really doesn't matter. How many reps should I do? It really doesn't matter. Just get better on the basics. And when you look in the mirror and you have imbalances, by that time you can say, hey, my shoulders are not where they should be for the rest of my body. What do I do? It could be as simple as adding in some lateral raises. It could be banded lateral. Then people get into this, well, should I do banded laterals? Should I do high reps? Should I do timed holds? Doesn't matter. None of that matters. And you get these people that are really good at this word I hate, copywriting, and they do the build up, 40 pages of build up, and then there's 2 pages of the workout, and then everybody's amped up and ready to go, and they won't stick to the workout because they have training ADD, because they forget about the basics. So
yeah. I'm a believer in first, like in my opinion around fitness is very like geared towards people that are just like wanting general physical improvement, like not competing at high level athletics or competing for bodybuilding, but just in general, like in general, you want to get in shape and lose weight and feel like you're living your best version of yourself possible. And for me, it's always been like, there's different programs. It's more about finding what works for you, what gets you motivated to go. So it could be bar class, it could be CrossFit, it could be just going up to the gym and putting your headphones on and grinding it out quietly, whatever kind of works for you. And then, and diet's the same way. It's just micro improvements. So like, a lot of times people go like, oh, I need this crazy, 4-week crazy workout set skill and program that I'm just going to like shred my abs. And it's like, sometimes it's just as simple as going, hey, if you're only going 3 days a week, go 4, do a little bit more. Like, do 20 minutes on the Stairmaster when you're done, like 2 times a week. Like it's not crazy stuff. It's more about discipline and showing up every day, and just kind of like over time, you're going to push. And this opinion might be I've heard some people get a little bit controversial, not super controversial, but different ideas. But like, there's this idea of like, you have to get that last rep. You have to push yourself to like 100% every day. And for me, I found more success when I go at like 80%. Like if I leave a little bit in the tank, always, then instead of being like wrecked, like if I go out and have like a really good squat day on Monday, now on Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm not feeling like kind of sore, and then I don't go Thursday, Friday, like all of a sudden, like, yeah, I had a big day, but I didn't go as many days. So I'm better off going like to 80%, but I'm going 4 or 5 days a week instead of like having one day burn me out. And then there's days, of course, where you're really feeling for it. Let's go for it. But I think for me, that 80% rule, 80, 90%, leave alone the tank, but you're going consistently is helpful. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm a fan of maximal training for the big lifts. So you have like I said, the 6 basic lifts. So you're doing, high sets, low reps. So maybe 8 sets of 5, 10 sets of 3, something like that, because, you don't want to blow your central nervous system out. Mm-hmm. But I do think that, high intensity training, which is that training to failure, has its place, but you should do it on the smaller movement. When you get to the point where, like I said, if you're barbell rowing 225 pounds and your biceps are small, first of all, they're not. Second of all, if you think they are, then throw in some curls. So you can take the dumbbell curls and you can push them to absolute. You can do 4 sets beyond failure or whatever, because your smaller muscles can repair themselves faster. Mm-hmm. If you're doing squats and you're doing 100 reps in the squat, you're doing like the 20 rep squats, which is what I used to do back in the day, the squats and milk program, which I got ginormous on that, but I was also young. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing, 20 or 40 rep squats, pushing yourself past failure on the big movements, you're going to burn yourself out real fast. But it's really, you're not going to walk in somewhere and see your friend and you're like, man, what's up, dude? Man, I did too many tricep extensions, man. I'm done with this for a month. I can't deal with it. It never happens that way. So I really think that, like you said, pretty much stay in that 80 to 85, maybe push it, kind of cycle it 80% one week, 85% the next week, 90% the next week, and then just push your isolation stuff if you're doing it to close to failure a little bit beyond. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like you never like hear somebody like, "Oh, I can't move my arms after tricep push downs," but it's like you do like a bunch of those exercises, and you're like, "I can't do a single one more," and then you like walk away about 10 minutes later, like, "How come I couldn't do one more? Like I could do a bunch right now, but like a big squat, like you could do a big squat, and then like 2 days later, like, oh crap, I can't walk." But
Right.
and I always bring this up about like the fitness and the main lifts, and how it relates to other things in people's lives, like a business idea or a career or a project you're working on, is if you focus on the big things, those are the things that move the needle. So a lot of times people are like, they do the accessory stuff, so like if you're out there creating like if you want to create a business and you're sitting there figuring out your logo and you're figuring out your website, you're figuring out your social media profile, and then you're connecting with people online, that might be like, okay, it's going to give you some benefit, but it's like accessory stuff. And it's like, you got to do the big things that really move the needle. So once you kind of like figure out what it is you're trying to do, you say, hey, what are the things I need to do every single day? And just kind of repeat those. And it's kind of boring, actually. It's not like super, super sexy going and staying fit or building a business or chasing a passion. A lot of times is just, it's a grind. It's getting in there every day and doing the things you're supposed to do over time. And it builds up and it builds character. For me, that was like a turning point in my life when I realized that. And I heard it from Jocko Willink. I was listening to a YouTube video of his, and it was talking about, what do you do on the days you don't feel like doing this? Like I show up and I go anyways. And they'd say, well, what if you don't want to? What if you want to take a rest day? I was like, I take my rest day tomorrow. So, if you feel like you need a rest day, go tomorrow. So chances are when you wake up tomorrow, you're not going to feel like it. And so I kind of like heard that, and I started thinking about that, and I started going, hey, no matter what it was, I was just going to do it today. Even if I didn't want to do it today, I would go through the motions, do it today. And chances are I would feel a lot better after I was done with it. I would feel like, oh my God, it performed better than I thought I was going to be. Or some days I didn't have like, personal best record lifts. And I'd be like, wow, it's a good thing I showed up. And that next day I didn't feel like I needed to take a day off. And so I kind of stopped planning days off in a sense of like, hey, life's going to get in the way eventually anyways. Life's going to plan days off for me. Like, if I say, hey, Wednesday's my day off, well, what happens if something gets in my way on Tuesday? And now I have Tuesday off. Then Wednesday was my planned day off. And then my whole routine's set up. So if I just plan like, hey, whatever I'm doing it every day, life will get in the way. Or if there comes a day I need to take a day off, I'll take it, but I'm not going to plan it out. What's your experience been around, discipline and habits and continually, putting in efforts, and when you take rest and when you don't?
Well, I tell people there's two things in life that will never fail you if used responsibly. That's discipline and Jack Daniels. And since I'm sober right now, I just kind of rely on the discipline. But very seldom are you going to want to do it. Motivation is going to fail you. Motivation is when you want to do it. Discipline is when you do it because you don't want to do it. And the thing about discipline is it will 100% never fail you. And I'm at the point in my life where I can auto-regulate, which means I can kind of feel out. I don't do programs, I do protocols. So instead of planning everything meticulously, because I myself have training ADD, I do protocols. So I've done my push, and I've done my pull, and I've done my legs. Well, now it's back to push. And what I like to tell a lot of guys who are just starting out is it's best for beginners anyway, is to start with a full body program. So you're doing, even if it's just bench, squat, and deadlift, and you're doing like a 5x5. So you do that on Monday. Well, if you don't feel like doing it on Tuesday, that's fine, because you just did everything yesterday. You shouldn't do it today anyway. And then Wednesday rolls around. You're like, man, I'm still not feeling that great. Well, that's fine, because you did full body. By the time Thursday rolls around, you're ready to do full body again. Well, maybe you skip Friday, Saturday rolls around. Well, it's been 48 hours, so you can do full body again. So you can keep, and you can split, 5 days. I know guys who train one time a week. They put in as much as they can. They work manual labor jobs. They put in as much effort as they can in the week on like Saturday or Sunday. And they go work the job during the week, and they get results because they've been doing it long enough. And you don't need as much as you think you do. But you get to that point where it's probably best to follow a program And as Coach Dan John says, when his students ask him, hey, why do we do this? Because Coach said so. Coach said so. When you get into that mindset, you can take a program like Windler's program, or you can take Mark Ripeto's program, or anybody. I mean, Alexander Cortez, whoever. You can take their programs and follow it the way they wrote it, and don't worry about, well, can I substitute it? No, because you can, but it's not my program anymore. And if you don't get the results, then blame yourself. Don't blame me. And when you're first starting out, you need to stick to something. When you're an intermediate to an advanced, it's easier to auto-regulate because you kind of know what you're doing. But if you don't know what the hell you're doing, pick a program and stick to it. Don't hop around. Just stick to it. Pick a way of eating and stick to it.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing, is like having consistency over time, because you're not going to see a ton of results, especially if you're a beginner in 3 months. Like, you might see beginner gains. Like, you go in and you're significantly overweight and you change your diet and you start working out. Like, a lot of times, especially like you talked about not drinking, you quit drinking, you might lose. Like, I quit drinking and I lost like 10 pounds in like a week. Mm-hmm. It was like all water bloat and stuff like that. So you're like, oh man, this is crushing it. Like, this is all working. Like, I'm going to switch and do something else. It's like, there's a little bit of beginner gains. You got to stick with it over time. And then, you go, you probably got a lot more in you than you think. So like, you start off with your lifts and you're at whatever your max capacity is, and you're going to improve, and it's going to take you a good amount of time before you start like really capping out of where you go. So you go in and you deadlift and you're like, yeah, I'm PRing every time I go deadlift by 20 or 30 pounds. Well, a year or two later, you're like, you're not going to be PRing 20 pounds every other week. But it's about showing up and being consistent and let those things happen. Because if you just kind of like bounce around too much, I think you lose steam, you lose momentum, and then you end up giving up. And that goes with a lot of things. It's about really setting some habits. So you talked a little bit about you quit drinking recently, and you also have suffered from depression all your life. Mm-hmm. How have you felt depression-wise since you've removed alcohol from your life?
I always noticed that because I didn't start drinking on the constant, like I'm 3 or 4 days a week till about 5 years ago. So I've been drinking since I was 16. Mm-hmm. But I didn't believe in drinking every day. I didn't feel like drinking every day. So for some reason, I grew up backwards. So my hangovers got less bad as I got older. So I was able to drink day after day. And I've never gotten to the point where I drank 7 days a week, but 3 or 4 days a week is just as bad. And I always noticed that every time I would drink, if I would stop for like 4 days or something, the third day was the worst. And this past time that I did it, I almost just quit everything, left everything where I was, got in my truck and just started driving because it was just that bad. And I also recently gave up coffee. So I gave up caffeine. I haven't been on speed. I still have a headache. I've had a headache for 4 days. Mm-hmm. Advil won't do anything. So the caffeine headache and like the carb flu, like when you get off carbs for a while, they're about the same thing. It feels like vertigo with a lot of pain, and my neck hurts. And but right now, the weird thing is I watched a video. I've been watching these videos by Alex Becker. He's a I guess he works in like marketing. He runs a company called Hyros. And he does these videos, and he was talking about how he got off coffee and everything. And he lives in an apartment with nothing but a desk and a bed. He's just minimalist and everything, simple diet and all this kind of stuff. And he was talking about how caffeine, basically what it does is that it boosts your cortisol, which is your fight or flight. So now you drink the coffee and you think you feel good, but you're depressed. And I mean, you're not depressed. You're anxious, and your stomach might hurt and all this kind of stuff. And what it is your body's thinking, I got to run away from saber-toothed tigers, but there aren't any. And how many times have you drank coffee ready to get some work done? You've got 18 tabs open on Google. You got YouTube going. You got Twitter going. You got the music over here. You're bouncing a basketball. You're playing a video game. You've got nothing done because it's not natural energy. Mm-hmm. And starting yesterday was the 4th day. Today's the 5th day. I've got so much natural energy because none of it's blocked. None of my sleeping patterns weren't blocked. My endorphins weren't blocked. My serotonin's not screwed up. My cortisol's not through the roof. I have no cortisol right now. Mm-hmm. Everything is I'm just ready to go. And I was thinking yesterday before bed, even at 11:30, I was still amped up. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't go to sleep. This is screwing my cycle up. Well, about 5 minutes after my head hit the pillow, I was out.
Yeah.
From being amped up because it's not blocked anymore.
And you're probably able to have like a continuous night of sleeping and right through it, you know?
Yeah, it's gotten better. Yeah, it's gotten better. I'm an insomniac. I've always been an insomniac since as long as I can remember. I think it's one of those caveman things because they said the cavemen were probably insomniacs because they were constantly being attacked by tribes and animals.
Yeah.
So they would sleep like a couple of hours at a time and have to wake up and defend the tribe and stuff. So I'm probably still trapped into that particular primal fire. So that's probably a lot to do with it.
That's probably true. But you touch on some stuff there. Like for me, like I grew up drinking alcohol since I was 16 too, and it was probably similar to you, where it's like I drank on the weekends, but I drank in excess on the weekends. It was like Friday night, Saturday night, it was party time. But as I got older, I stopped having, drink till, 4 a.m. and wild nights. And it became like, hey, I'm drinking every day though, 3 or 4 drinks, or maybe some days 5 and 6, and it just kind of like creep up. And I'd wake up, still do what I needed to do. I'd still get up early, go to the gym, go to work, do what I needed to do. But I always felt like lethargic and stuff like that. And I started, I quit drinking alcohol because I was like, hey, it's kind of messing with me. And I still have the back and forth with it. But I quit. I decided I was going to try to do 75 hard, if you're familiar with that. And so I was like, I needed to do something. So I quit drinking alcohol. And about 3 weeks into it, like all of a sudden my mind was just like way different. Like all of a sudden it wasn't like, I say depressed in the sense of like held back. Like it was like, being restrained. And all of a sudden I'm waking up with just like ideas. I'm like energy. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And I think you start noticing like things about like, hey, this is how my body's supposed to feel. And I've had allergies all my life in my past. And when I started getting like allergy shots and you started able to breathe and stuff, you start going, this is what it's supposed to feel like to feel normal. This is what it's supposed to be. I just assumed that's just how you felt. You just kind of get adjusted to it, acclimated to like, it feels normal. And then you find out like, oh, this is what normal is. Like, how could I go back? But I still struggle with it internally. Like, there's like this way of checking out or turning off the switch or just kind of like transitioning from go to like relax time. So for me, I still struggle with the alcohol portion of like, hey, I want to have a drink, in the sense of like the feelings that come around having a drink, not necessarily like I've got to have the alcohol in my system. But then I also struggle with like, I know how good I feel when I don't have it. And so now I get in this like push-pull with using alcohol or not using alcohol, even in moderation. It's been a little bit of a challenge for me, but I do notice that my anxiety levels spike when I drink. I get depressed a lot easier when I think. I get anxiety and like you get kind of like caught up in your head. Like I'll get caught up in my head with like stupid shit like hey, I was on social media of all things. I shouldn't even care what other people I don't know think, but I posted something I felt was important and nobody liked it. And then I'm like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. So like, I'm like, why am I thinking all these thoughts? Like I shouldn't even care. Like, I got to get off that. So it's a cool thing to do when you kind of start looking at taking, I guess, enhancements or things out of your body. You start feeling like, hey, this is how I normally should feel. And you start eating healthier and moving, keeping your body moving. I think that's a great way to do it. So how long have you been in the fitness industry?
13 years, I believe. Yeah, because May 2006. So yeah.
Okay.
13. About 13.
What led you down that path to get plugged into the fitness world or decide that was your purpose?
Well, I got started late. I didn't start losing weight till I was like 23. And I was working third shift, was stressed out of my mind. I worked for Honda's sister company. It was a great job, but it was still stressful, mainly because I'm already an insomniac. Now I'm working third shift. Humans aren't supposed to do that. And I said, I'm tired of being skinny. I was like 160 pounds soaking wet. So I'm tired of being skinny. I'm going to try lifting weights and see what happens. And I blew up pretty fast. And it was, I fell in love with it. It was just the most amazing thing. I read something when I first started working out that our ancestors would get, and this is something else along the lines of the primal fire. Our ancestors would, hunt, and they had metal objects, and they would fight in arenas, and they'd go to war and things. So our battle is with a barbell instead of a sword or a javelin or something like that. So when we put our hands around it, it opens up that primal instinct in us to work with something heavy and to fight. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the same thing that boxers have and football players have, and and weightlifters have it. And it was like that for me. It wasn't just the development of the physique. It was the getting stronger and the fueling all of my rage into it, because I've always been a very angry person, just like a naturally not angry, but rage is basically focused anger. So you take that aggression and you focus somewhere, and it becomes healthy. Yeah. So instead of attacking people or attacking animals or attacking trees, you go out there and you find a productive way to do stuff. And people started coming up to me, hey man, and I was young, so I was getting big and strong fast. Like, hey, what are you doing? What are you eating? What are you taking? As they ask. I said, what? Screw it. I'm gonna get certified and start training people. Get certified. For the record, certifications mean absolutely nothing. It's just a way to get liability insurance. Mm-hmm. And so I got certified, got my insurance, started training people, and it went from there. So I worked as a personal trainer for about 11 years and a strength coach for about 2 years now. So.
Very cool. I think a lot of people, we talked a lot about beginners, and people think, a trainer is for a beginner. You get a coach because you're a beginner. You don't know what you're doing. I think that's one aspect, is like, hey, I don't know what to do at the gym. Somebody show me how to do it. Go through what are the exercises? How do I do them properly and all that? Yeah. But the real thing where a coach comes in handy, and a lot of people, especially me, I've been in this boat too, is like you start doing something for an extended period of time. You say, okay, well, I know what to do at the gym. I know what to do with my job. I know what to do with these things. So why should I hire a trainer or a coach to help me out? But I found if I don't have one, you talk a little bit about its accountability, but it's also somebody that helps you see what's inside of you and helps you pull them out. So even though they're holding you accountable, they're finding what triggers you to keep making progress, keep making persistence. And then they look at things and they, okay, you're really focused on XYZ, but you're missing ABC. Like, let's look at ABC. And if you don't have that coach or that trainer there, you're not taking an independent look. And it's different than just having gym buddies, because gym buddies, it's just like, hey, we're going to go and we're going to, it's bro lift day. We're doing back and buys and stuff like that. And it's just bullshit. And then you don't really push yourself. But a coach will say, hey, look, you've been focused on this. This is lacking. Let's add this in. Or, my trainer that I go to, she always tells me like, dude, you're fat. Like, you've been drinking, haven't you? And I'm like, yeah, God damn it. So, she holds me a little bit accountable. She knows how to like push my buttons to do things. But I find that if I like, especially because right now when we're recording this, everybody's in the stay-at-home orders, and I have the stuff to do at home at the gym, and I can't motivate myself the way I do if I go to a place. Like like you said, you don't like people. I feel like I need people around me, even if it's not a group setting class. Like, I like people watching. I like seeing what's going on. I feel like if I show up at a gym and there's people there, then there's an obligation to perform in some sense. Or at my house, I'm like, oh, this is kind of tough. I think I'll call it quits today. So 5 sets, 3 was good enough. But if somebody else is there and I feel like somebody's watching me, then I'm like, I gotta finish. So there's something cool with that. So awesome. So you're on Twitter. You're on Anchor. People can find. Where else can people find your podcast?
Anchor sends it out everywhere. So it's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on Google, Breaker, Podchaser, it's on that. Whatever those other ones are, I'm not sure. But most of the main ones, you can find it on there.
Very cool. And your Twitter handle's The Primal Fire.
That's it. All one word.
All one word. Jason Argonaut. That was like one of my favorite movies when I was like probably 8 or 9 years old. That came out. That was a cool movie. Where did you come up with the Argonaut?
Well, I was actually named after Jason the Argonaut. It was one of my mom's favorite movies, and she loved mythology as I do. And she just decided to put a Y in there to make it unique. And then, of course, with my depression and my struggles with alcohol and, you know, all that kind of stuff, I carry the title the Argonaut as a reminder that only God can destroy me. My demons can't destroy me because I'm still here. Yeah. So I just carry that title.
That's a good reminder. So, and encourage everybody to go over, check out your podcast, The Primal Fire. It's cool stuff. I was listening to some episodes this morning. It's great that it's very focused around mindset. It's focused around finding your purpose, finding your fire. And there's some interesting people on that show. So appreciate you coming on and chatting a bit about life and fitness, and had a great time.
Thanks, Nate. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.